Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today I'm going to be talking about top 10 fall fragrances designer list, so stay tuned for that. And if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. So this list for this year, I decided to take out some of the usual suspects, although of course some of those are still on this list, and for good reason, and try and put a few new fragrances in there that you might not have tried or probably had or might not have heard of anyways. I'm going to start the list off with L'Homme Ideal Extreme. This is the first from the Ideal line that I would say I actually do gravitate towards liking. I wasn't a big fan of the Cologne. I totally understand why it was discontinued in my opinion. I personally didn't really like it. It wasn't bad per se, but it wasn't something I was a fan of. Ideal Extreme is actually done pretty nicely. There are a lot of things that I do like about it, and it definitely suits the colder weather a lot better. You know, it's got leather, it's got tobacco, it does have almond in it, and it does of course have that really nice cherry note, which I'm surprised that more fragrances don't use. A lot of people seem to love cherry, but it is one that's a little bit less frequent. This one does have a nice touch of cherry in it. And it has a very nice leathery and tobacco accord that I also really like. Now, some people have said the almond is quite strong. For me, it's not. It's not this really milky, creamy almond that I have come to expect from the line. It's a little bit more of a dry almond, but I will be testing this one out more, wearing it more, do a full review on it soon. But that is going to be number 10 on the list. I should mention also, these are really in no particular order. I find it very hard to order some lists, and this is one of those lists. I don't really necessarily like any of them more than the other, but I think these are great recommendations, and all of them are worth getting your nose on if you haven't. Now, next on the list, of course, is going to be Spice Bomb. I don't know that any list could be complete without it, so I've decided to put it on. I actually love the original Spice Bomb. It's the only Spice Bomb that I don't actually own. Well, I don't have night vision, but I also don't like night vision at all. I have Extreme, I have Fresh, and I might get the original at some point because I do also really like it. It's not quite as peppery as the Extreme, but it still has a lot of those qualities that make Spice Bomb great. Even the reformulated current version is still really, really well done. It is a nice, to me, a little bit more sweet than spicy. It still has a sort of that Coca-Cola vibe that I talk about this fragrance having, and where at points it does remind me of Coca-Cola gummies, and it's something about the spices and the vanilla, I'm sure, that strikes that. But that is going to be next on the list. I'm not going to say a ton about it because that one's been talked about a lot. Next on the list. Now, some people talk about this one as more of a spring-summer fragrance, and actually after wearing it more and trying it more, I'm not entirely sure why that is, because it's actually pretty sweet. I mean, it's not beast mode, so maybe that's why it's not really talked about in as a winter fragrance, but I think for fall it would actually be quite good, and that's Amen Crypto Mint. So if you like that Amen DNA, that chocolatey vibe, this one is a minty version of that. And what I like about this is the mint doesn't come off like menthol, and it doesn't come off like toothpaste. It does smell minty, and in fact, I'm definitely not the only one who thinks of this. They remind me of Girl Guide cookies. Or Girl Scout cookies, I think if you're in America. In Canada, we call them the Girl Guides, and there are these chocolate mint cookies that everybody loves. Everybody buys like crazy when they have them for sale, and those are Girl Guide cookies, and it definitely reminds me of that in the opening. Has that nice minty, chocolatey vibe that dries down into the more familiar Amen DNA, which is that nice chocolatey vibe that it has. So great fragrance. Does perform decently. It's not absolutely beast. It's not like the old school Amen that people talk about, but it is still a really solid fragrance, and I think it's one that doesn't get talked about as much from the line. It's actually in my top 3 for the Amen line. I really do enjoy Crypto Mint, and it is kind of gourmandy. That's definitely one thing I like about it. And I love Girl Guide cookies, so that definitely fills that sweet tooth of mine. Now, next on the list, some people might disagree with putting it on this list. There's always discussion about where these fragrances belong, and I've decided to make the statement or make the decision that even the exclusive lines for designers are still designer fragrances. Yes, they're more expensive, but they're from designer brands. And so if we're going to define things as, designer or boutique or niche or whatever you want to call them, these fragrances still are made by designers, and ultimately, whatever definition we're using for designers, these still fit. And so I'm going to pick Tom Ford Oud Wood. And that's right, I'm not putting ombre leather on this list, as tempting as it is and as much as I'm going to enjoy wearing it. I'm going to go with Oud Wood instead, because although it is very popular, it's a well-loved fragrance, it's definitely not one that I would personally usually put on this list. And mostly because it's been the private blend line, or it is the private blend line, and often that gets shuffled off into niche. But it is, like I said, still a designer fragrance. This is a really, really nice woody fragrance, a little bit spicy, oudy, but not skanky. It's, some people say it's not natural oud. Maybe that's true, but it definitely has this nice woody, spicy element that's very masculine, and it's very classy. So this would be great for a nice cool day, especially something where you're in a little bit more formal situation. Although I could see wearing this pretty much any day you want. It definitely does do well in a suit, that kind of thing. Very, very good gentleman's fragrance. A lot of people complain about the performance. The longevity to me isn't that bad. It's not a beast mode fragrance. It's a little more subtle, does sit a little bit more close to the skin. But I think the fact that it is so gentlemanly, it plays into that. A gentleman's fragrance invites you in as you get closer. You are drawn to it. It isn't something that asserts itself like many beast mode fragrances. And don't get me wrong, I do like beast mode fragrances as well. But there's a time and a place for something a little bit more subtle, a little bit more laid back. Now next is also going to be a private line, and that's from Dior, and that is Spice Blend. Now I know a lot of people have compared this fragrance to Spice Bomb, and personally I don't get that. I don't get that at all. Yes, it does have spices, but it's nowhere near as sweet. So especially the Extreme, even the original, the OG, is still quite sweet. And so this fragrance is not that sweet. It does also have a rum note in it, which gives it a bit of a watery feel, especially in the opening. And it does give it a little bit of a boozy quality, which is really nice. It's another one that's fairly subtle, so it's not a beast mode fragrance. It does have decent projection and longevity, but it's a nice, spicy, boozy fragrance. Very simple, very straightforward, but again, gentlemanly and very enjoyable. I do like Spice Blend by Dior. And the next one, I actually have a bottle of this one, and this is Oud Noir Sport. Now I'm still going to go with the Sport. I know a lot of people would pick this one more for summer, but I like this one a lot more than Oud Noir, and I feel like Al Extreme is best for the winter, and this one is something better for the spring, summer, and maybe also the fall. Now it does have certain aquatic facets, and that's, I think, why people do wear it more in the fall, in the spring and summer. But it is still quite an earthy, vetiver heavy fragrance, and it's done really, really well. So I think it's something that can easily be pulled off. It has that inky, earthy vibe that Oud Noir is known for. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit easier to wear. I think of all the ones in the line, this is the most mass appealing. And I don't necessarily consider Oud Noir to be a challenging fragrance, but it is one that's definitely not for everyone. But if you like vetiver fragrances, if you're starting to explore vetiver fragrances, don't overlook this one. It's very, very cheap. I think this was $25, and it's actually a surprisingly good vetiver fragrance. And that's even comparing it to many, many niche vetiver fragrances. Next one on the list, I'm going to go with Giorgio Armani Stronger With You Freeze. Again, this one is a bit of, or more talked about as a spring summer fragrance, but especially after trying it, I don't feel like necessarily that it really is. So yes, it does have that cool lime note. It is a little bit lighter, which makes it a little bit more usable in the warm weather, but it still has a lot of that sweetness and a lot of that thickness that Stronger With You has. And so I pick it for fall because ultimately, at least where I am, fall is not that cold. It's a little bit cool. I think in the very, very cool weather, the Stronger With You or Stronger With You Intensely works much better because it's much thicker, much stronger, much sweeter. But this one still has those sort of candy-like, sweet, sensual qualities that Stronger With You has, but it is lighter. It does also have that interesting lime note. And it is, like I said, a little bit lighter. So on those days where it's a little bit more warm, it can definitely still be worn. And if it's a little bit cooler, it's going to still be strong enough, I think, to perform. And of course, that depends on where you are. I know some places are in an absolute heat wave right now. In some places, it gets very, very cold in the fall. So you might want to go with either stronger with you or intensely in that case. But if you like that stronger with you DNA, you want something a little bit lighter and also has a nice lime note, I definitely think Stronger With You Freeze is an excellent choice. And the next one is a classic. It is a classic, and it is Chanel Egoist. This is just a really beautiful, captivating, spicy, woody fragrance. It's a very manly fragrance. It's very much a man's fragrance, and it makes a statement. And that's something I like about the fragrance, that it says something about you, and it has those qualities that come off as confident, come off as masculine. And to me, it's easy to wear. It is definitely one I should pick up at least a decant of so that I can enjoy it along with other fragrances. And in fact, I might actually do that this year. I might even pick up a bottle of it at some point. But I am trying to keep my collection fairly slim, as it's already quite large and has, more than I'll use in a very long time. But anyways, this one is older, but don't overlook it. Because of that, in my opinion, it's still one you should get your nose on. Great, spicy, woody, masculine fragrance. Last two. The next one I do have a bottle of as well, and that is Dark Rebel by John Varvatos. And I actually just saw somebody else, I think it was Sebastian, who posted something about a new John Varvatos fragrance. So for those of people who had heard that John Varvatos had filed for bankruptcy and were concerned that the line might be discontinued, all of them, it doesn't look like that's the case, and that the John Varvatos fragrances will continue to exist for at least some time to come. I know filing for bankruptcy can often be a strategy for companies not to just crumble, but actually to rebuild and reconstruct. And given everything that's happened this year, I think a lot of companies are actually doing that. Now, this fragrance, it's your typical bad boy fragrance. If you want to ask someone like Jeremy, it's leathery, it's boozy, it's masculine, it's a little bit dark, a little bit mysterious. Performance, not that great, maybe 4 hours, although to me, I do get pretty good projection on this one for at least 2 hours, and then it certainly tapers off. But there is about 2 hours where it has good projection, and 2 more hours in general for, still lingering and still projecting a little bit, but it is about a 4-hour fragrance. But like I said, this one, $25, so I don't mind reapplying that if I need to, and especially for a little bit of a cooler day, I think this is a great choice. Absolutely do enjoy this one, and that is Dark Rebel by John Varvatos. And the top one, although again not particularly in any order, this one is no surprise to anyone. I love this fragrance. This is Dolce & Gabbana, the one EDP, and it has to be the EDP for me. I don't really like the EDT. I do find it to be actually not as pleasant. This one is very warm, very cozy, very inviting, and the EDP just has that extra depth to it. And it's just, this is one of the best tobacco fragrances. Even to this day for me, this is just one of the best tobacco fragrances that there are available. And you can find this at a pretty good price. You can definitely find this on discounters, and I think you can get it definitely under $100, probably under $80 as well. I think I looked up FragranceNet, and you can get 100 ml for around $50, which is pretty close to a cheapie and definitely worth it for that price. Now, people do complain about performance. I get about 6 hours with this, which is generally not that bad. It's not absolutely beast mode, but it does certainly perform pretty well. So the performance, like I mentioned, not that bad on this one. And it is such a versatile scent that you can wear anytime. I've worn this one to work. I've worn it to events. I've worn it on dates. It really just works anytime that you need it to work. And so the versatility, the price point, and just how good it actually is. There's a reason why people talk about this fragrance even today. It is an older fragrance, and there's a reason why this one is still well loved, because it is a fantastic fragrance, and I love this one. It is one that if I actually finish this bottle anytime soon, would probably pick up another bottle of it. I know there's not many fragrances I'd buy a backup bottle of it. I'm not sure I would, because I don't really buy them. There's a lot of fragrances to try. But this one, really, really good. Very enjoyable. And if you haven't tried it, if you're one of the few people that have not tried this fragrance, I would definitely get your nose on it. But trust me, EDP over the EDT any day of the week. The minor bit of price point difference is worth it. This is deeper, it's richer, it's better. Anyways, that's it for this video, guys. I'm going to cut it right there. Let me know in a comment down below, what fragrances are you thinking of wearing this fall? What are you looking forward to wearing? Are there anything that you haven't worn because of the heat that you want to wear now? And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.